right beside each other?
I mean, this stand was just here. I don't think Tej minds.
I don't care.
Yeah.
You can watch me type out all my answers.
Oh no, I was just like, that's cute.
She's seen Rex and I debate.
They'll cuddle you and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We like hugged after the round is over.
Aww.
It's adorable. Alright. I took my favorite picture all weekend with Rex. I'll show it to you after. It's great. Alright. Everybody good?
Yep.
Sweet. Personal finance disclosure at the state level is in shambles. That allows rampant corruption. Even states with disclosure still use ancient systems that kill accessibility. Updating the system is key privilege. 16. The controversy over tax returns for the government of Missouri. Democratic candidate called off to debate negotiations on the ground that Creighton's would release its tax return for Missouri's financial disclosure firms are not available online, making it impossible for the public to see without traveling to Jefferson City. Financial disclosure firms only require vague listing as source of income. The personal financial records that candidates trained by arcane disclosure rules and disparate antiquated rules make it more difficult to track. Conflicts of interest rate or disclosure would help dispel dark and unnatural some power money or playing a role. Some states will only access so much shows up in present states insist on verifying the names of the records are handwritten, and state disclosure system splits federal information freedom as well. Povich. 16. Maryland ethical law allows any person who wants to see financial disclosure show up in Annapolis, show ID, and register their home address. If someone files a Freedom of Information Act request, they can get them, but it's not online because ethical laws trump freedom of information laws. And 2 states still hold out with no disclosure whatsoever. Hernandez. 18. Idaho and Michigan are the last remaining holdouts that don't require lawmakers to disclose anything about their personal finances. And disclosure system using aggregates fail to create transparency, specificity, to keep runner. 14. They only have to report the values of income asserts in broad ranges to 1 to 2,000. The highest tops out 100,000 range, the reals very little. That'd be fine for the 1950s. There's been a little bit of inflation since then. The impact is ongoing and structural. It allows conflict of interest to rule all. Hernandez. 18. Conflict of interest analysis disclosure reports from 6,933 lawmakers across 47 states provide numerous examples of lawmakers who have introduced the legislation to directly and indirectly help their own businesses. In Michigan, we have currently no idea whether income lawmakers having the disclosure gives the public the right to decide. The lack of effective disclosure for official near offices governments opens the door to potential conflicts of interest, but also dependent on public corruption. So doing business with state governments disclosure is key to holding politicians accountable. Thus, the plan. The 50 states and relevant sub-federal actors of the United States ought to require candidates for public office to substantially disclose personal financial information. There's a list in the document for clarification on everything the plan does. Georgia. 11. Candidate for public office, a financial disclosure statement shall be filed no later than 15 days following the date of the qualified candidate. It solves. Try me. 8 point is online disclosure is key to effectiveness. Brunner. 14. The public releases information. If there's a bill that's influencing a particular company, you want to see how many lockers have stock in that company. The only way to do that is have accurate, quick access to information about interest. I don't think it's a problem for PTC something available online. B point. Best available empiric through mandatory disclosure. It just massively decreases interest for candidates to be found violating finance law, encourages recognition among corrupt officials, and incentivizes greater catering to its local constituents. Wood and gross. 18. Incumbents majority audit software at the polls, we can see a statistically significant effect. Incumbents are revealed in violation of finance laws do much worse, almost 5 percentage points worth. Result clearly indicated transparency affects incumbent virtues. Audited incumbents first how they would lose virtues. They mitigate potential loss by choosing to resign. Incumbents with campaign violence found into audits of 9 percentage points worth. The audits not only effective virtue, but also chance legislative behavior. The transparency in finance audits increase information of voters. Incumbents facing transparency to the reveal finance laws financials who were being audited legislators were more likely to increase trips back to the districts. Incumbent legislators who audits reveal violations were most likely to retire. Subpoint C is public information. Long and Hernandez. 17. Disclosure source of information permits society to become aware of interest supporting candidates and independent candidates or overly rely on other conflicts of interest. Subpoint D is deterrence. Long and Hazelton. 17. Disclosure can deter corruption. Journalists, rivals, and activists and others can identify. Supporters may discourage candidates from corrupt activity, donation, scandal, and false accumulation. Subpoint E is enforcement. Long and Hazelton. 17. Disclosure is vital for enforcing donation laws and impossible to detect non-compliance without it. Disclosure provides data for studying issues as money spending trends, competition, and reform framework. Status quo debate shows not conversation about everyday balance, only framework that creates only a non-ideal framework that creates basis for any solutions is productive and ethical. Curry 14. One addressing a disparity made discussion with the ideal fix, ideal the counts between actual problems and creative theoretics, misopical paradoxes on the actual. This gap entity rules discussion for collective nature, repression, our attempts to situate social disparity, can appeal to ontolization of phenomena. We can also use the various scales of complexity or functional legible when the ideologic frame. Thus, the standard is resisting oppression. Prefer additionally, one is reduction in symptom empirics proof. Parfit 84. Surgeons have properties effective conclusions that spiritual concepts. Psychologists represent 2 questions to answer for the industrial field and receive 2 different answers. Second, no intent force that distinction. 8 governments have unique responsibility. Enoch 7. In policy making decisions in global perspective undertaken perhaps individual doctrines title give a secure without thinking about tomorrow. When a state tries to formulate the allocation of secure cannot have the intending foreseeing distinction. States are in a special relationship between the personal interests, autonomous lives, and resource responsibility of states. B point. If we foresee a consequence, it becomes part of our deliberation, which makes it intrinsic to our action since we intend it to happen. Third is that only consequentialism explains degrees of wrongness. If I break a promise to meet up for lunch, that's not as bad as breaking a promise to take a dying person to the hospital. Only the consequence of breaking the promise explained by the second one is so much worse than the first. Theory. First is reasonable affirmative interrupts. 8 point, there are multiple T interrupts, and one in C can read like spec good or spec bad, which the affirmative will always violate. If the interrupt, the affect was okay, you should default to substance outweighs. Since topic A is unique to this resolution, where the majority of debate education occurs. B point, there's only 4 minutes for the 1 hour to generate offense, answer standards, and way while covering substance. Reasonable affirmative interrupts allows to actually get education. Second is RVI. Subpoint A is skew. There's no 2AC to develop carded offense, and the 1 hour has to overcover. Since the 6 minute 2 hour is devastating, which occurs them to develop underdeveloped T in the NC and overdevelop in the NR. Need the RVI to develop good in-depth T offense. B point is reciprocity. T is a unique avenue to the battle. The affirmative can't access space. T structurally unfair without the RVI. Method. Debating political solutions is an iterative process that uses the academy as a side of movement building that creates a bulwark against Trump's fascism. Taylor 17. We enter a period of uncertainty. Trump will still oppose all the big flaws. Substantially hardest administration will attack immigrants, continue assaults on black and brown communities. Cover will declare war on Muslims. We've seen a revival of the white supremacists. Hard, but its uncertainty is the extent to which Trump will follow through. This uncertainty is based on a calculation that toward our ability to build movements will towards a Trump agenda. This possibility exists only when we recognize the academy as a side of politics and struggle, whether or not we see them as political. The right wing certainly does scholarships, not alone politics. There is a need to connect resistance, struggle, and transformation with students who are desperately looking for hope. The future is not a room we have already seen the eruption of mass struggle in occupying BLM. The Trump will demand more than outrage. It requires a strategy. We must create the spaces for debate. Political ideas matter. This is not to suggest we should be disagreeing, but clearly about differences discovered through patient debate. Struggles not easily attend atmosphere of defeat. Political establishment wants to punish the voices of black liberation, but not better for the legacy, history of politics, of the movement. Black struggles and open disable the supposed censor. The black freedom movement became a platform for other liberation struggles. Though challenges continue to line our ability to transcend through argument, debate, and struggle. The paths that divide our resistance is a call for solidarity on the basis of papering over different experiences. Our fates are connected, and injured one, injured all. One of the world is truly possible only if we struggle for it. Prioritizing academic theorization because the case doesn't solve enough is unethical. Delgado 9. The critique of piecemeal reform is wrong. A court order directing authority to disperse funds for having heating and housing may postpone the revolution. The court order keeps families around them. It may mean more to them than it is uncomfortable. Academic work in the warm office back to paternalism understood the possibility of revolution later. Outweighs heat now. Incremental changes may bring revolutionary changes closer. Not all reforms induce complacency. The critique of reform miss these possibilities.
Cool. Yun? Public information, the Leong evidence. Why is public information like a solitary, I guess?
Society becomes aware of interest supporting
Why
parties
does
and
society
candidates.
care?
Multiple people probably care. I know like people personally that care.
Okay,
You want me to isolate
what's
like
the warrant
reasons?
for like why like the public in general will care?
Like a substantial amount of people vote. A substantial amount of people, their local politicians control large aspects of their lives. The schools they go to, the schools
Why do
they send
people
their
not
kids
vote
to,
the
the
last
water.
election if they care about voting?
The presidential election is not the impact of the affirmative. Local elections are also important. For example, things like water, public funding for schools, extracurricular programs. All of these are controlled by local elections.
What is the
which is
impact
a
of the
micro.
affidavit if it only affects 2 states? Why don't we already see these impacts?
It doesn't only affect 2 states. 2 states have no disclosure
It
rules.
says 2
Wait,
states hold out.
can I answer questions?
Yeah.
Only two states have no disclosure rules. The disclosure system in other states are like ridiculous. You have to go to the Capitol, like turn in your ID. You have to you have to have a house that's registered. You can't
Who has to
access the
have a
records
house?
online.
Or like, who are these requirements for? The people who want to view the records?
Yeah, the people who want to view the records. The plan gets rid of those
Why? Is that good?
because these requirements bracket out a substantial amount of people from viewing records. For example, if you live far away from the Capitol and you don't have the means to transport yourself there, you can't view the records on a candidate.
Okay, why are states key?
States are key because they have the ethics laws that articulate like how you can view the information, what dictates local elections and like elections in general for like senators and representatives.
Okay,
They established
USFG.
That's heck no.
Okay.
What? The plan says the 50 states.
Okay, let's talk about the Georgia evidence. How does the Georgia, or like why is no later than the 15th day uniquely key?
Well that's just like the rule that Georgia uses. It is 15 days. That's probably a reasonable amount of time for a candidate to like file a disclosure.
The Maryland example is common in other states.
Which Maryland example?
The one in Figure 16, second card.
Okay. Yeah.
Why is it similar in other states?
Missouri has one where you have to show up to Jefferson City, so does Alabama, where you have to show up to the Capitol.
Okay, cool. The method argument, what is a concrete action?
I didn't read the Bryant card.
Oh wait, never mind. Yeah, you read Delgado.
Look.
I know. Okay, what does it mean for academic theorization to be unethical?
Yeah, sure. So the Delgado evidence says that the critique of piecemeal reform is wrong because these things affect real people's lives. For example, water, extracurricular activities, local elections, as the examples given above. Saying that these things may postpone the revolution is sort of paternalistic because it may sound interesting to us to just like rail about the revolution, but materially these things like keep families warm, they keep their like livelihoods good, and that critique of reform is paternalistic to suggest that those
The
people
Taylor card, why is the academy key is stopping Trump's fascism?
The Taylor evidence articulates that the academy is a site of politics, whether we like it or not, because the right uses it as a site of politics. Spaces like debate are an educational process by which we learn information about the world through iterative debate over plans.
Hey, Serpent.
I think I left my foot in another room on my back. I know, like having back there.
Okay, start from 2-6.
206.
Left.
Okay.
It's 4 then cubes.
Okay. What's the order on the F?
Underview, top down.
Which underview?
Theory, then method.
Okay.
I'm flowing the case just like top down regardless of the situation, so yeah, I'm just letting you know.
Okay, that's fine.
So you'll throw the 1 and C on the case top down?
No, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll parse through it whenever I look through my speech.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
Cool. Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let me get the doc open. Alright.
Cool. Casey? Sean?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Interpretation top of Marxist, those listed for the Marxist 2018, the EU Democracy Index, USST violation, defend the United States, 18, the EU several nations contribute for the Marxist there, or 19, the pandemic that always accounts for modern global politics, defend the ground, the top violation is the United States first limits any comments for the Marxist, the top country, 15 nations, off defend any given country, and substantive instances, tax returns, campaign finance, health workers, as well as actors, EU 17 for the Marxist, 19 for the Marxist, 50 cent average, regime 32, authoritarian regime 52, against finance, security, next, 1 after 2 for the prepping South Africa, had 30 minutes before the rest, preparing preparation, net money, pigeon, to the gen A, to generic something from it, always influence C. To prepping make arguments pointed there. 2 point is top of literature. Most photo marks in German value question top channel. 18 photo marks in first decimal. Automatic controls upload. Nation fracking marks at freedom of civil liberties. Executive judiciary independent opposition media structured voter fairness. Because debate can mean debates can mean new rules by education by schools and be used competing interpretation reasonability. Begs the question about the arbitrary intervention also cops and competing interpretation just like 2 lines by 2 separate interpretation drop the the F has a sense of what is 2 3 minutes to speech away from waiting arguments can't respond to plus we need to deter future reason or be able knowledge for the human for being the women's test 2 engaging in substance be correct you're reading is super specific affirmative. Obviously, your frontline team is they should be able to dump 2 frontline. C1 is forced to switch to 2, or you can copy switch to 2 check back showing effective points of education, go after self resolving theory. Next up. Interpretation of the democracy is indefinite article modifies democracy resolution means you have to prove the resolution in the back and not particularly into CCC. The article is are indefinite articles that are used to refer to something as one specific manner. Beagle makes a great hunching dog. The indefinite pronoun refers to all members of the class. Text key, the property, so many preparation. We generally based on resolution process violation. They defend only the United States. The standard first ones are tons of different democracies. It's ridiculous to choose a combination sort of being able to choose a candidate's actor's office as well as instances where there's always 115 countries they could defend as democratic. 17. Full democracy is 19, full democracy is 57, hybrid 39. That's a ridiculous idea. Can't research any subject, kills any education, comes from the affirmative. Second is ground pigeonhole to generalize the concept, but every time gives you a huge advantage. You confront with the one is every single time they only have to proper one affirmative case things every possible combination, democracy, candidates, actors, etc. means all those from the easiest from interpretation, research, performance, or otherwise they can specify the point they're not even generally the F. Third, topical verse in the app stalls. You can read your specific app as advantage under whole app takes over eliminating any app as advantage. Next up. Balancing rights against each other, decide who gets what's real in the hierarchization, suffering perpetual validation of something against valuing others will give to the status of non-human. 14. Comparativity laws minority groups to gain recognition of hegemonic powers who only grant certain exceptions to spheres of human media, peace and discord, period of scarcity, subjugate groups compared to limited resource leading directly and mechanisms to certain groups not quite human, and the one he sees attempt at becoming body through legal incorporation, core resisting hierarchies, humanity dividing the human and not quite the fully non-human. 14. The body represents legal person watch designated dimensions of likely by deprivation for the core resisting subjects must be transformed to flesh being granted legal to body, the hierarchies of transmitted exceeding the generation box of hierarchies affects one affects the person that they endure rather than creating more zone of indistinction or the world vortex of hierarchical indictors. In the absence of family, many factors will mean to flesh holds together by the world of man and forming condition for the wisdom and the alternative is an affirmation of habeas corpus exploration of the luminous space out of the law until to the European men instead of trying to include people in our sphere of justice. We should take the position of those who are non-human to create alternative conception of humanity as the legal apparatus. 14 block that remain critical in opposition as well cannot play the majority to humanity. All this fact significant systemic changes within the location structure justice relation on totality. The politics can be system not considered inclusion, but dual and collective conscious motive the shared obligation to preserve and remotivate conceptual interior politics. Habeas corpus occurs like the hieroglyphics into potentiality dwelling in the flesh of weapons to liberate from captivity. Some of the oppressed habeas corpus enemies elsewhere of industry, the centrality and true potentiality, and the role of the body is to deconstruct the European man as a condition for all forms of exclusion. 14. The promise of vitality lies in illuminati contains extra structure for world of man within our current episteme groups constitute aberration of man be subject to racial establishment primary function to create and maintain description measure of the species of the next underground hierarchy for the man receiving battles that to something the specific other structures articulated in open totality abolishment liberality humanity set of specific group text stuff. Counterpart text of 50 states and all relevant sub-actors of the United States ought to require candidates for public offices eventually disclose personal financial information except for there's a reasonable probability the candidate would face harassment causes the name or disclose Johnson at 11. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission public disclosure candidates that can provide citizens with information needed to hold officials accountable. Disclosure will be unconstitutional by there's a reasonable probability we will members would face threats for harassment reprisals. Always under the framers. Once a citizen means a counterpunch of the entirety of the firm has a net benefit stop. Things like harassment and threats is obviously something that's inherently oppressive means that mitigating oppression means that you still vote the counterpunch of the firm to the case. The underview, or actually, yeah, the underview. As an overview, one two our contestation arguments of the 1EC when it comes that they can use and take accusation of the 1EC. I should be able to leverage arguments of the 1EC versus the next we should be pointing is the specificity. That obviously the 1 year show is going to verify the way that they have a reasonability right under the way that they say that the affirmative reasonable is going to vary between the issue of neutral our contestation of this argument on the one when they say reasonable interpretation. No, you can't read reasonably topical. You're either topical or not. 2 point is that you don't get a cookie for being being topical. Go back to substance. That substance is already skewed. They say there's multiple change interpretation I can read fine. You should just answer the change interpretation. You say top good, you should do unique to the resolution. Obviously, if the alpha affirmative is abusive, we're not getting good top good. You should first if it's a T is a preclusionary question. They say there's only 4 minutes to generate offense. 1 point is the 1 3 solves your offense. 2 point is the spikes in the AC solve. That's what you do in this round now. They say RVIs as an overview. 1 point is that you don't get a cookie fair top, but that's our logical warrant. 2 point is crossed by all the 4 warrants from the teacher of this argument. Now there's skew argument. At 1 point is that weighing solves all your offense. You can just be efficient and go for the arguments like 1 year 3 prior. 2 point is that 2 year weighing solves your offense. You're always responsive to 2 number, 3 number respond to the 2 argument. They say rushing crossing the 1 3 solves your offense. The advantage. Their poetry at 1 point is there's almost no impact. Only 3 states require anything, which is any kind of personal finance disclosure. Solve their offense. 2 point is the plan is not key misery. Legislation in some specific states also their offense. For some reason, all 50 states need to do it. All right, uniformity is uniquely key. They're turning as evidence. The first one, there's almost no impact in this 2 states to require anything. You probably should have won this argument. Their brother evidence. You should read the small text of this. During preparation time, their brother evidence says that members have to do a report, a detailed breakdown of assets over 50 million, which means that any application of that's the things like states would also solve their offense. Also, Additionally, congressional people have to disclose it. They can pass policies on the federal government that force things like better transparency in the state level, which is that the Congress have to report all your officers. The second piece of Hernandez at this one point is non-unique. People are going to be corrupt names and particularly criminal things like Trump getting most of his wealth from his data. 2 point is that there's almost no impact to this. He says online is key, but no, there's a major all cost to people not voting in elections. That's because people are apathetic because they think the current political sphere is supercharged and terrible, which means that apathy is a major issue. But they're probably not going to read finance reports, which probably means they'll also see the affirmative issue against them is super small size of like the cards on the advantage. Information is copyright corporation created by kid and on a FOIA request informed federal agent cost tax for 250 million per year. The beneficiary talk originally intended litigants using the FOIA means of acquiring information from private parties business would FOIA could be used to gather information. Competitors, the vast majority were made by business executives, market card executives, and controversy with private life. Displaces policy analysis. Thompson can teach as a quality talk attracts leaders who talk about privacy achieved in 2 ways. First, information is more immediately engaging, more ready competence to job performance. Additionally, there's a cruel optimism to to all their arguments. Let's say that we can have some kind of change within the legal sphere, or with the evidence criticizes the ability to include humans within legal. But that fear when they're not including the first, which means illegal incorporation is a hard question to any of their method arguments.
Okay, give me a second. Are you ready for conflicts?
Yeah, 2 seconds. Do you want it marked up?
No.
Or are you good? Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Cool. I asked you before the round, and I told you I'd defend all democracies if you wanted me to. Why didn't you say yes?
Because I think it's strategic for me to be able to read topicality.
Okay, that's fine. The critique, what does it mean to pursue liminal spaces?
Wait, what?
What does it mean to pursue or like reject like
Yeah,
legal
so
recognition?
the argument is that habeas viscus is a question of the body versus the flesh. The body is a legal person like the European man. The flesh is a result of depraved life. It creates an illusion of having a legal person, but is marked as something
Wait, no,
different
what is
from
that
the
all?
body.
Wait, no. What does like it mean to sort of like reject legal recognition? What does it mean to
Yeah,
do the
I'm getting to that. So instead of changing the language of the flesh, the argument in habeas viscus is that we should embrace that instead of trying to become the body. Embracing liminality,
Does the
i.e.
alt
spaces.
prescribe? Does the alt prescribe that to all people of color? Is that what people of color should do in the face of oppression?
Well, I mean, you can make arguments as to why it applies to all people of color, but the argument is that
No.
rather than trying
Does
to
the alt prefigure that? Does the alt sort of like set a prefigurative goal that this is the way things should be resisted?
The alternative makes an argument about rather than trying for legal incorporation, we should embrace habeas viscus.
Okay, so it does make a prefigurative statement about how people of color should do things.
It makes an argument about how we should engage within the way the world works.
Yeah, so you do prescribe resistance strategies. What would happen to people of color today if they tried to reject legal recognition?
Yeah, so here's some examples of like how what the alternative would look like. For example, the Zapatista movement in Mexico is an embrace of like spaces outside of the law, or things like the Black Panthers. Another example would be say that some
So
like
to clarify, should all people of color in like the 70s, or at least all black people, join the Black Panthers? Is that something you the alt
it's
would
not
sort
that
of force
everyone
them
has
to
to
do?
join the Black Panthers, but instances of embracing liminality.
Okay,
Or
so
things
are
that
the
the
are the
alternative
people
says
of
is good.
color?
For
Wait,
example,
no.
like
My next question is: are the people of color who wanted legal recognition, like pursued civil rights, etc., wrong?
The argument is that those kind of hopes will never actually lead to lasting change. For example,
But were they wrong? Like, should they have not? But should they have not done that?
look, the argument is that even if like you say civil rights were good or whatever, the argument made by the criticism is that there's a cruel optimism to say to all of your arguments that the legal sphere can ever include a form of like complete inclusion.
Please
for
answer
these
the
people.
question I'm actually asking. So, should those people not have done that and done gone to the Black Panthers instead?
Sure.
They should have. So, to clarify, your critique claims that all black people in the civil rights movement should
It doesn't
join
say all
militant or-
people should join the Black Panthers or militant organizations.
So why is it?
There's
Wait,
other
no, no,
ways of embracing Illuminati, which was the example I was going to give before you cut me off. Do you want it?
Sure.
Yeah, so for example, like if the census wants you to check off checkboxes, refusing is a demand not to be included in an instance of the alternative because you're demanding like an outside from legal
What
incorporation.
does not checking the census do for?
Like you
resisting
refuse to be
racism?
included within their count.
Okay. What about if like it's necessary to get things like welfare, like government stuff based on
Yeah,
legal
the
recognition of
argument
rights?
that came is that this like having humanity just never changes that map of understanding or liminality.
Prep. Status of both the offs.
Counterpoint conditional, critique is dispositional.
Okay. Two left. It'll be the T democracy. T can't spec a democracy. T full democracy. The case, the counterplan, the K.
Can't spec T dem case counter K.
Yeah.
Cool. We're on case.
The advantage and then the method. It's in the doc app. There's only one card. I'm just gonna put it. There are like two cards. I'm gonna put them in the body.
Alright, where will the cards be?
Like the K. And then one of them's a definition on T. Sent.
Alright, 1 second. You said one's on T. Okay. And there's like
That's the short T democracy thing. You ready?
okay, whatever. It's
Yeah, it's just the EIU Democracy Index.
yeah, the Philippines, cool.
It's fine. All right, everybody good?
Yep.
Cool. Reject both T-shells. Tej had the opportunity to solve all the pieces before on the red because I asked him if I defend all democracies and he refused to do so, which means all of it is self-inflicted and straight turned. It's a voting issue for advocacy schools because it encouraged bad debate and reading T strategically, which was all the abuse of self-inflicted counter-interpretation. The epic specified democracy A singular, Merriam-Webster used a function for singular onset. Key to clash their interpretations, passing an eye that after to divide democracies in the vaguest way possible. Debate collapses, delay general principle nonsense. Also, it's checked by counter warrants because they can cut dissents, counterplans to every and it takes to every single democracy, which leaves the affirmative as sitting duck and non-unique solve the limits and ground arguments. The limits under proper functional limits, check back topic literature and controversy, check back stress you outweighs because hard workers can prepare a long topic, we can prepare a large topic, we can't just work on an unfunctional topic. It's also arbitrary because they always complain about limits when they kind of have specific problem because the affirmative that's been in the Dropbox for a few weeks. Ground argument, you don't get to pick around, it's your job how to figure out how to answer the affirmative. Second, specifying increases your ground for the part of the concrete proposal, you can link or dissents. Choose now stable for having a stable advocacy turns this straight turns this. People always know like any argument you read. Now the TV topic version of the affirmative doesn't solve any of my offense. Now the other T-shell. Counterinterpretation democracies means countries that aren't identified as either full or flawed democracies on the EIU's list of democracies. It's not under limiting functional limits like inherency, advantage, crown solvency, and advocates of upcoming elections. I'll check their interp over limits when the topics come out of functional limits and create stale debates. Under limiting is better than over limiting. Then it gets generic to check small affirmatives. The affirmative has no remedy on a small topic is better for critical thinking. Saying this topic, education, tax returns, and U.S. policy are core controversies with the negative has to be prepared to defend. Has to be prepared to defend. Now, evaluate the affirmative under a whole resin approach, even if they win T. Time investment is checked by the fact I have to waste time answering T. It's key to education. If substance really matters, then we should revert back to no reason we lose their standards. The limiting standard doesn't make any sense because they could just specify any permutation of the 19 democracies and they exclude all the flawed democracies that matter. Also, tell me why you have more ground against the Malta affirmative than you have against the United States affirmative. And Malta is a full democracy. The Shangri-La 18 topic literature standard turn you have more ground against affirmatives with flawed democracies because you have full democracies. Check back all your disadvantages because there would be no corruption for you to link disadvantages to, which answers all of your arguments. Reasonability, competing in terms of costs is reasonability since there's an inherent offense on T, which is that you're sacrificing substantive bit on it, which means you're automatically rejected. Now the case. Case always on probability that conceded splits in federal information as well as a whole host of solvency arguments. This provides people information for activists on the street and vote candidates out of office, and including a statistical study that proves that more incumbents rejected than line by line. Two states, it's not a two states impact. Multiple states have different factional arbiters, which answers the uniformity impact. There is an impact, which is that different states have local incumbents, but it controls the internal link. The internal link to things like local corruption. The 50 million argument is about the federal government. It doesn't solve the affirmative because they wouldn't pass those policies. Corruption isn't non-unique because you conceded a study that empirically decreases and the impact is linear. The FOI, the next argument is about the FIOIA, which is not personal finance, it's about campaign finance and freedom of information, other aspects which corporations weaponize at the affirmative. The Thompson evidence is about private things like sex life, but not about personal finances. The Ross cruel optimism dissent is answered by the fact they conceded a study about the affirmative solvency, which you should have affirmative on the counterplan permutation to the counterplan. It's not competitive with the affirmative. They say you should not disclose the name of the donors. It's about campaign finance, not personal finance. Like candidate disclosing their own finances. If it is about personal finance, and it doesn't solve the affirmative, because obviously you have to know which candidate you're like talking about when the candidate says they spent $100 million. You can't say that this person has gained $100 million and then not put their name out there, which means you have to put their name out there. That's a transparency dissent. It means not competitive. It's about campaign finance, not personal finance. Now, the critique. Framework decide whether the affirmative is a good idea. The role of about self-serving and arbitrary arts is key to topic education and the nuances of engagement, because our epistemology is inherently tied to the consequences of the planned permutation. But there's no reason the alt is mutually exclusive. We can understand liminal spaces, but we can also push through the strategy of the affirmative. They consider the Taylor evidence on case, which proves that the affirmative is a form of political movement building, which allows necessary education that's key to accessing the alternative in the first place. And they don't have a mutual exclusivity argument because they don't prescribe all people of color to the alternative, which is a solvency deficit as well. Recognition by the state is good. Right 3 defines citizens. State involvement is inevitable because autonomous movement can never be secret. King 16. It's obvious to talk about creating a wholly autonomous social structure because second, their consequentials are second be noticed by the state. It becomes impossible to bring the psychopath attack as we refers to the first line of the state. The infiltration by the Black Panther and Zapatistas. History of liberation has been claimed demands on the state struggles for seeking recognition when it comes to actual practice of us who stand against strategies seems not even insulting to one of these practices because philosophical problem. Sometimes people are separation of available strategy. Our situation imperfect and struggling perfect reality. Practice seem to be based on the legal material repression, such as representational labor brings people to power. Means reaching range of movements and press refuse to be not reduced, not being conditionalized, voting issue because it tourist clash because they never defend anything they stick with them, anything that they like. Right.
Okay. Let me check. 206. Sure. The only independent voting issue was a condo one, right?
The reject
Okay, the advocacy
T-shells.
skills voter.
Yeah, the
Wait,
T-shells thing.
that's just a reason to reject the T-shell.
No, it was framed as a voting issue for
Why?
advocacy skills because you say that you call other debaters abusive and cheaters for strategic purposes, which is bad because you learn to become bad advocates and engage in
Okay.
like frivolous positions. Like for example, you chose not to engage into affirmative, so you could call it unengageable. So you could call the option you chose unengageable.
Was the answer to the counter plan just this campaign finance argument?
The perm and the solvency deficit. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like how do you know when they're in danger? How do you know which names to erase? So just like be case by case cases that would result in the same patchwork. And the names are key.
Okay. No cards. It is T wherever you flow this like advocacy skills voter. Then the F. It'll be on the advantage. Then the K.
Yeah. Are you going to the counterplan?
No.
I'm ready.
Cool. Everybody good? Oh, actually, there will be an overview to one-year theory. I don't know if you want to flow that separately because it's kind of long, but
Check one-year theory.
Just put it on the T-shell? I like
yeah,
that.
you can just put it at where the advocacy skills voter is.
Okay, then.
Okay, cool. Everybody good?
One point is that negating starter 8 points of psychology judges already know there's already side by side for means that they're inherently incontroverted and towards the affirmative. B point is they have the first loss for means that they set the direction to be, and also to read the change of mind. C point is that they want to opportunity that they can control the direction by reading things like one-year theory or their way in their strategic time allocation. This means that you should are heavily negative on theory. Any risk of defense on one-year theory means that you should go back to substance. 2 point is that reject one-year theory arguments because the strategy after two speeches not interpretation always abuse because the jury can laugh at anything I say without giving you a chance to respond. Third is that one-year theory struck the argument any place where you can benefits you from the three speech and frame and explain 3 second one-year books that B points they give about application they send force one-year research whenever the affirmative point is judge intervention drop the victim means the judge has to take the weight on Whippy 10 second long paragraph shot when a D point is which retrieve I want to see if I can do description of so they can read the or drop the argument on both the shells means 2 things. First is that you drop the conditional obviously which is the counterpoint which is that you can drop the counterpoint. Second is that I drop the T shells drop the T shells means that you can drop those that even if you think that you should drop the conditionality sticking with the counterpoint. Also the permutations of test competition which means that if I can see the permutation the counterpoint goes away. Now the fourth argument in the overview is reasonability and you can one theory of roundness they can generate multiplies over reading theory. I need to be able to multiply strategy but if they since they have the ability to the two are giving them some sort of advantage over the two and they also have 2 speeches to make wing arguments and implications reasonability they could have done multiple they could have gone for multiplies they could have impact turn gone for the RVI or gone for the permutation or impact turns and wing turns on any things or one the case. Now the arguments on these arguments proper no RVIs on any of the T shells means all you have to do is repeat back the one of the arguments you go back to substance here advocacy skills voter 1 point is negative flexibility. You have one negating starter which is I should need to be able to test I need to be able to multiple different angles to employ multiple different outs of the tuner in order to have strategic variability. 2 point is testing the aptitude key to rigorous contestation make the affirmative and make sure the affirmative best policy. They say I could have asked them before. No, that's obviously a terrible norm. I should have to ask everyone before the round to make their affirmative topical. You should be topical from the beginning. Now, yeah. One argument I'm going for is it's the argument that says that it doesn't solve for people who don't care. The problem is that apathy is a major issue in the status quo. Their personal finance reports are super long. Nobody's going to comb through hundreds of pages of tax returns. That means that people don't care about the firm. With Jews, any voters checking back and changing the way they engage with local incumbents. And there's almost no size of link to their solvency. Means you can vote negative on presumption because they can see this argument of the 1AC. They answered the rest of the arguments, but this was an analytic argument that was missed in the 1AC. Small size of link means that if they don't solve for apathy, then people aren't going to go out and vote as a result of personal finance, which means that by their A point there's no impact to disclose to the affirmative happening because people won't check in the first place. Your B point is that they just won't vote in the first place. So there's no solvency for the affirmative. Okay. On condo. 1 point conditional counter-interpretation conditionality is good. 1 point is breadth conditionality is sometimes negative test the outcome multiple different angles, which is uniquely key to understanding various perspectives and issues of contestation with the affirmative. 2 point is testing the outcome multiple different angles. Already 1 negating is harder, which means that negative flexibility means I need to have multiple different strategies and ways to rigorously test the affirmative. 3rd is real world policy making. Policymakers never hold to one policy option. They always modify and change different parts of bills. Now they say condor deters cops and tuner cop solves their office because I will cops the one thing in the tuner, i.e. the king this round, and they can answer the tour, which all the officers came proper. The overview. Here's our thesis. The face shouting machine starts with the European man as the standard, which all other bodies are compared to magic coordinate. When the European man will be the center, when compared with different bodies, other groups are questioned and positioned are the European men. The different degrees of defense. For example, a straight white female will be closer to the center than a disabled black woman. The idea of a person on the one necessitates a non-person, which is a terminal assaulting deficit to the affirmative. Instead of trying to include people in a legal personhood, we need to deconstruct the idea of the European man. That's the weak we have. The Euro world of valid sets up the conditions for all form exclusion, which is the reason why rejecting the European man is a prerequisite to any of their affirmative arguments are resolving oppression. The non-person is who is not the European, but a flesh makes the prior person. The K turns and outweighs the case. A point is scope. The European man is the root cause of all oppression because he creates the conditions for exclusion, i.e. the non-human, because you don't live up to a standard of the European man. This also means the alternative solves the case which non-unique any net benefit to the permutation and means a risk of disadvantage to the permanence. The reason to put negative. B point is longevity. The affirmative being permutation condition from groups in the short term, but the critique proves that creates conditions of exclusion continuous means we outweigh on magnitude. Also takes out any kind of specificity claim because they create the conditions for far more violence than any one policy can resolve. The link debate. First is the legal incorporation, like the notion of a person under the law, i.e. giving rights and having some kind of personal violence necessitates outside. That's a non-person, which is any attempt to include people under the law. 8.4 marginalizes those considered even causing more oppression. People and reifies legal notion of personhood. That's the root cause, which always any kind of possible benefits of policy. That the link debate was conceded, which means I've already won a link now. All I have to do is win the alternative and beat back the permutations. Yo! The alternative habeas escapes of politics that takes a position out of those liminal spaces designated for non-humans sites of resistance to the European. There's two forms of existence. One is the body, and one is the flesh. The body is the European man for a legal personhood, while others are the flesh and liminal spaces. Habeas escapes and embrace of the flesh is necessary to resolve conditions, schools, and embrace criminality. A couple net benefits. One point is the unintelligibility net benefit. We create alternative understanding of humanity inaccessible to European man that provides survival strategies. Think of the Black Panthers and Zapatistas. That's a form of recognition or rejection of legal recognition. The Zapatistas, some of it has empirically been proven to resist the Mexican government. And the way that South American politics are inherently present. 2 points is a commodification. Net benefit. The affirmative is another narrative of suffering. And debate the roles of a form of exclusion created by the European, which gives us a charity cannibalism. Just after the affirmative, because it simply relies on the affirmative from the same form of suffering. When looking to write this affirmative, he looks for things like poverty and corruption in the status quo, which is uniquely worse the permutation property. Group all the permutation in the king evidence. 1 point is a co-option. This terms to modify and call resistance, police rights, game march, etc. This state will always co-opt radical resistance. This state joins under privileged minorities, which only reign sharp state power. This is still incorporation, means you take everything good about the alternative and co-opt corrupted by force of recognition. By the state 2 point is a footnoting. This side also, as on the alternative, take focus away from luminous spaces, not by human. The permutation also links to the net. The permutation also links to the net benefits to the alternative. Means that you prefer the alternative. They also consider reason why the alternative solves the entire case. Means that if the also solves the case, there's no net benefit permutation.
2. Starting now.
About to use the restroom.
Work it.
Case game.
Case just on the advantage part.
Well, there is in here.
I know, I'm waiting. He's gonna make it fill this up.
Did you say he's going to the bathroom?
I
Yeah,
think
he's
so.
going to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's probably cool.
No, that's Connell. That's
Yeah,
not
I was
Connell.
like, it's either Connor or Dave.
That's Connell.
The order is 5 new off.
The case, but the overview will be about the Taylor evidence, which was at the bottom of the 1AR, and then the K. Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Tuner dropped the Taylor evidence, a couple implications. It means the scholarship of the affirmative is good for political movement building. The knowledge produced by the affirmative is key to enact the alternative in the first place. We can exist in liminal spaces, but we have to know about things like campaign finance, corruption, the way candidates get money, what businesses they own, what parts of the land to know if we want to exist in liminal space in the first place. It means the scholarship, the money sees justified, and there's an independent impact, which is the benefit of the permutation. I'll explain that in the case page proper. The apathy argument doesn't take out the affirmative. There are many things that the campaign finance need to fix now, i.e. like having to go to the Capitol instead of disclosing all of your information, which is a form of recognition in the first place, which means the affirmative is better than the status quo, and it proves that this apathy argument doesn't apply. They've conceded a study that the affirmative decreases the amount of corruption. This is the only empirical evidence in the round that outweighs their analytic apathy argument. The 1AR did answer it. It says that it doesn't matter because the study and this huge solvency section they conceded articulates that journalists and activists will still find this information, and even if some people don't vote, it does mean that a lot of people do vote, and that's proven by the statistical analysis that would extend the top embedded clash is good. The one and C on the case was incredibly blippy, and if the study does answer the analytic argument, you should vote on it now. The critique. Tuner grouped the King evidence with the permutation, which was a big mistake. All of their answers to the permutation may answer the perm, but it does not answer the King evidence. I'll stake this round on the King evidence being way better than any of their explanations in the Tuner. There are two implications of the King evidence. Subpoint A is the interaction with the state is inevitable. Anytime an autonomous movement, which wants to have all people of color exit into liminal spaces, gets big enough to achieve any sort of goal, I interact with enough people of color, then it will eventually be recognized as the state. It cites the Zapatistas and the Black Panther movement, which are the examples in the Tuner gives, and it says that anytime they got powerful enough, they were infiltrated by the state. The second claim it contends is that not all minorities should be forced to enter into habeas fiscus because they should not be forced into liminal spaces or refuse legal recognition. If you think about organizations that did enter those spaces, like the MOVE organization, they were literally bombed by police officers. The alternative, forcing all people of color to join things like the MOVE organization, results in damage for people. For example, my parents sought legal recognition when they got here. They got citizenship. That is how my life would treat. If they made that choice, then that's good for them. It doesn't mean that they enacted some form of violence, and liminal and existing in liminal spaces would have either gotten them either deported or killed, which is the result of the alternative, which means I outweigh the line by another wing arguments, the scope argument. This is a big question of whether they win the link argument, which isn't really explained to the 2NR. The all solves the case argument is ridiculous. There's no explanation for why habeas fiscus results in transparency or being able to know how much money candidates have, which is the result of the plan. The longevity argument is solved by the permutation because it does the alt and affirms the plan. The legal incorporation link is impact by our King evidence, which articulates that sometimes legal incorporation is a strategy that minorities have to pursue, even if it is part of the same structure. The alternative can't do anything about that structure, and we still have to pursue the alt doesn't solve it, and does the case in the charity cannibalism argument. One point is that you link to the charity cannibalism argument, you also have an impact to oppression, and you use it to attempt to win debate rounds. This argument is not explained at all and is new in the 2NR. Second, our Taylor evidence turns this. We have to understand for nuances of various forms of oppression in order to create political movement building, which is a conceded argument. Lastly, I'm going for the permutation. It's a good idea because the alt is not mutually exclusive. It doesn't corrupt resistance corporations because there's no explanation for why doing the plan corrupts the alternative. There's no footnoting because the plan is not a footnote. The alt is not a footnote to the plan. Both happen at the same time, and it resolves it if the alt is strong enough. The links to the net benefit argument is answered by the case outweighs argument and the Taylor evidence because they have to print a big enough link for the impact for them to access their impact.
Good
debate.